Hi, HC, the irresponsible reader here, and hopefully I don't look like I'm reading some sort of uh, note that some captors are forcing me to read while they hold something, a weapon against me on camera. I just want to make sure I cover all the bases here. Anyway, this is self-published author appreciation week, as anyone who's looked at my site for more than 10 seconds this week knows. And one of the things I've always appreciated about these authors is the way that they have to put their non-creative brains to work as well. They have to find and hire editors, cover designers, cover artists, work with layout and whatnot. I don't know it all. They have to think about strategies for advertising, what events to attend, how to make themselves memorable with these things. Do they give away swag? Do they do bookmarks? Do they do stickers? I don't know. Everything. And they have to strategize about releases, publishing schedules, and so on and so on and so forth. And there are probably a lot of things along those lines I haven't even thought of because I'm not one of them. I've never done that kind of thing. So we got a taste of some of that in the chat I had with Michael Michel a couple of months ago. I brushed up against this in some Q&As I did back in 2023 for Self-Published Authors Appreciation Week. And so I wanted to dip my toe back into that area this year too. These videos are designed to be quick looks at what go on to the business side of publishing. And yes, I'm using air quotes, which I find really annoying. Sorry. I have some thoughts about how I want to go deeper with this next year, excuse me. But I want to keep this short and sweet, and we did that for the most part. But I want to keep exploring this idea because while this week we are appreciating these self-published authors primarily for their creative output, as I think that most of them want to be appreciated for, and that's why we do this. But also, we should appreciate them for their so-called left brain efforts as well. And so here, for your hopeful viewing enjoyment, is one of my quick chats along those lines. Thanks for watching, and here we go.
Recording. Hey, we're recording. Welcome back, folks. It's HC. I say welcome back. This is probably day 2 of this series, so yeah, welcome back. I'm here with you, one, the only Joe/JCM Berne. Joe, would you introduce yourself briefly? Tell the people the best place to find you online and that kind of stuff. Also, on the day that this video posts, you will have released your 8th book into the world.
Oh, yeah?
Do you have specific emotions about that?
I tweeted, like, if anyone wants to talk to me about the specific emotions of releasing your 8th book, I'm available. And the truth is, no. I have none. Nothing happening. It just seemed like a thing. I was like, it's 8 books. It's 8 books, very different than 7 or 9. I think your first book is probably a unique. I don't know, because I feel like your first book is meaningful, but then also a lot of people release one book and then they never come back.
Right.
And I almost feel like it's like your 3rd or your 4th where you should feel like you're really doing this.
Okay.
If you just release 1 or 2, you could still be Patrick Rothfuss. And that would be your whole career, and then people would remember you as like, he's just the next Patrick Rothfuss. That's all, right?
Sure.
That's mean. I shouldn't be mean to Pat. I'm sure he's got his reasons, but like when you complete a series, I think is different. When you have several coming out, for me that meant something different. It meant I was really, really doing this, as opposed to like some people, like I think they have an idea and they work on it for 10 years and they publish it, but that's not a sustainable career or anything, right? You have your one book and it does fine, and then 5 years later, I don't know, like would be nothing wrong with that. It's just a different way. But to me, no. So I'm hopeful that 7 will, help. To me, it's a ladder I'm climbing, like a ladder of popularity and like getting slightly bigger, more influential people to know who I am and to promote the books. And this it really has felt like incremental steps over the past several years. And hopefully this will just take me the next 1 or 2. And I also do find that people tend to like my odd numbered books more. I think partially because well, first of all, Return of the Griffin is universally less liked than Wistful Sending, partially because it's not new. So you already got my shtick, right? So it's not surprising anymore. And then I left a lot of characters behind, and I went to Earth. People didn't like that as much. But then 4 and 6 were a little more setup books, and then 3, 5, and 7 are a little more payoff books. And I don't know if I'm going to continue that with 8, but it just has to work. Like you can't perfectly even out like how much is set up and how much is payoff. And maybe a better writer than me could, but I can't. So I feel like some people, not everyone, it's not universal. So Esme Rosaline said 6 was her favorite. I'm like, thank God someone liked 6 because I loved 6. I feel like other people didn't appreciate it as much. 6 had a lot of homage to manga. And I think a lot of my readers are not as heavy into manga. So it's like if you're a real comic book guy, the people who liked Return of the Griffin the most were the comic book guys, right? Yeah. Because it's got a lot of comic book stuff and like little winks and nods that you're just not going to get if you haven't read comics. So I don't know. So hopefully 7 continues the streak and is a well enjoyed book. But it's always nerve wracking. Like at least for me, it's like, okay, so I'm trying to continue this long series. It's not done. I have lots planned. But if people start hating all the books, if I get to the point where I want it to be like rolling and people are like, you know what, the last 3 kind of sucked, that's going to really be hard to like get through and work through. And that could happen. It could be that where I'm taking the series is not where people want it to go. Like you never know. So so there's a little extra anxiety at the 8th book as opposed to if I had released like 8 standalones where I think it's different, or 2 trilogies. Like then you're like, well, you're not still going, you're starting, and then I think there's a different kind of anxiety. And if you start a new trilogy in a different tone or whatever. Yeah. So it's always anxiety. If you don't like anxiety, find another hobby. Don't do this. That's the bottom line.
There's a bull quote. If you don't like anxiety. Now we're talking about the business side of self-publishing in these videos. Sorry, I'm distracted. I have a boxer who desperately wants attention. I'm doing something, okay? All right. She doesn't care. Okay, so assuming you have a day job, which I know you do. How much time a week do you spend at that? Are you a 40-hour-a-week guy? Are you, a workaholic? You get 60, 70 hours a week work?
No, I'm probably not a 40-hour-a-week guy, but I'm not a 6. I'm maybe closer to 45 or 50.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah. I've been doing the same thing for a long time, so I kind of have a grasp on it. I'm very busy lately because of staffing issues at my job. I'm sure lots of people have the same story. But I work most days from home, which the company does not like. There's a lot of pressure to come in every day, but I'm like 2 hours from the office each way, so I've been resisting. So when you're a 40-hour-a-week guy, but you work from home, like I can just write during my lunch break, right? But and I write during the time where other people would be commuting, and that adds up.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. What really made writing, the real trick was with writing. There's a mental energy thing, and then there's a time constraint. My kids are grown. Like I don't have little kids that I'm feeding or bathing. Right. That's a huge difference. I don't know if I could have done this 20 years ago. And then I don't commute. That helps quite a bit. And for the first couple of years I wrote, I really didn't. There's this expression in the tech industry they call it technical debt. It's where you don't do things you should do, but you have to make up for it later, like documenting your software. Right. So I accumulated health debt. Right, I basically didn't exercise much, and I ate too much, and I drank too much because eating and drinking can fuel the creative process. And I accumulated some health debt that I'm paying back now. So I'm in a better place right now. But that was that wasn't deliberate. It just happened.
Right.
But I found that I couldn't go do. Like write 2,000 words, do my day job, and still get a workout in. I just didn't have I had the hours. I didn't have the mental energy. At some point, I just needed to like watch some TV or, have some downtime, and I couldn't get it all done. Now I'm trying to do it all, and I'm more or less successful. More or less, but more or less. But I've been doing it for a while. Like it's been 5 years. I've been writing for 5 years, seriously. So I started Wistful in beginning of 2020,
Okay.
or
Okay.
end of 2019, something like that. Anyway.
During the time in everyone's life is beginning to change.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
So, how much time a week do you get to just write/edit? How much time do you set aside? Do you have like a set schedule? Do you what?
No. I am not a write every day guy. I get to a point where I've got a draft or I've got to edit and I have a deadline, and then I'll those spans of time I might spend 3 hours a day on weekdays and as many as 6 on a weekend if I have it. And then one weekend we'll have a wedding and that Saturday is shot. But I'm a binge worker. So some weeks I do nothing, and some weeks I'll probably I might even spend 20 hours. My wife works a lot of weekends, and that helps because then I'll have like a whole Saturday to just write, and she's at the hospital. I'm like, oh, well, then I can do it without guilt or with less guilt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not like one of those get up at 5, work till 7, and that's every day of the year. That's great. That's just not me. I really need to be pushed. And then in a sense, I'm working all the time because if I'm not actively drafting, I'm thinking about the next book. I'm thinking through plot lines. I'm trying to come up with ideas. So that's happening constantly. Like I never shower where I'm not thinking about the next book or the series at large. So that's constant. I don't know if I call it work, but it's constant.
Okay. All right. That's fair. And now, so not the writing bit or the day job bit, but all the other stuff, the social media, the promotions, the doing all the admin things like finding a cover artist, working with them, hiring an editor, all that kind of stuff. How much time would typically would you say you do that?
For me, I don't even think it's an hour a week on admin type stuff that I think of as work. And I will split out the social media from that because to me, the social media is fun. It's socializing. I don't really do it as marketing, but the actual marketing thing, like communicating with my cover artists, calculating my budgets, right? Like putting stuff on spreadsheets, looking at ads, right? That stuff I spend very little time on. If I wanted my ads to work, I would need to be much more dedicated to that or be willing to spend money up front to hire someone else to do that. There are people who will. You can say sort of like, I'll give you $750 a month and I'll set a $2,500 a month ad budget. You will create my ads. You will, there's a word for it where you have like 2 ads and you see which one gets more clicks. There's a word for that and I can't remember what it is, but you get the idea. People do this. The whole process of like tweaking all the different parameters around how your Facebook presents your ads. Does it go on Instagram? Does it not go on Instagram? What kind of audience are you targeting? What age bracket? That gets complicated. I know people spend many hours a week on that, and I should, but I'm in the kind of a place where I'm like, I only have so much energy. Like I've got a day job. I've got a wife I like to spend time with. I've got kids I have to deal with. They're older, but I still spend time with them. And if I really did the ads the way they should be done, I wouldn't be writing very much. And I'd rather lose money than not. The whole point was to get the writing done. The whole point was not to be able to pay my bills because I have a day job. I have money. I'd like more. That'd be great. I'm not going to sacrifice those other things.
Before.
I'm sorry?
I've never heard anyone say I wouldn't mind more money. That's shocking.
Right. I already have plans on how to spend it. If this, it's like, if I got $100,000, I know what I would go and buy. Right. So, but anyway, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We are looking at like between writing and marketing just a little bit and your day job, we're looking at like 85 hours a week that you're spending.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
At the most. So that does not really give you a whole lot of time for that wife and children and hobbies and your health debt.
Yeah. I get much less reading done than I used to.
Sure.
And I spend less time. Yeah. But then when I'm not drafting, I have more time. Right. So I'll draft for 8 weeks, get a book done, and then I might have a month or two where I'm editing and I'm spending less time on the writing. So, I mean, if I try to get two books out a year, I really have 2 intense periods of drafting. And by by the halfway point of that, I'm really trying to draft every minute I can, because that's time and energy consuming, and then I get really stressed out, and that's tough. That might not be the smartest way to do it, but it's been working for me so far. It was harder when I really thought I could squeeze in more, and I was like, oh, I'll just do a serialized story like on the side, just like a chapter a week. That did not work. It turns out my brain doesn't work. Like I can't switch quickly enough from like working on one project to another to work. People work on like 3 things at once. I'm like, I cannot do that.
Sure.
I'm on one.
Yeah.
So I don't have any magic tricks other than, my kids are older. They don't even want to spend that much time with me. My wife is very busy. Like if my wife were home, or if she was the kind of person who was like, I want to, spend a lot of time doing stuff, like it would be harder. And I don't commute, and I really have to recommend the not commuting.
Yeah. No kidding.
I know.
I do 2 or 3 days a week, and it makes all the difference in the world. And I have a shorter commute than you do, but those days, the in-house days are.
Yeah, the only good side is I commute. And most of it's by a train, and I get some good reading. I get some good reading time.
Sure.
A lot of reading done on Monday, because on Mondays I go in, and it's like a solid 80 minutes on one train, and you get a seat. So I'm just take the phone out and I crank out a good 80 minutes of reading. So that's nice.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'd do if I had to do that every day. Because if they told me tomorrow, like, you're fired if you don't come in, I'd probably come in. I can't afford to really just like retire or anything. And then I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably try to write on the train and come up with some kind of setup I can use to write. Which, hopefully, let's hope it doesn't come to that. So
yes, indeed. Okay, so now I asked you.
Yes.
From using the back of the napkin math, what would you say your hourly wage is from this 85-ish hour a week job?
Okay, so we can think of it. I was thinking about this. So we can think about it in 2 ways, right? There are capital costs, right? There are things that I spend money on that are in theory, capital improvements like editing, cover art, so some of the software that I've purchased where, once I buy a cover, I have that cover and that book in my back catalog forever, right?
Sure.
It's not, so you can think of it as this year, if I want to release 2 books, I've got to buy 2 covers, but then I've got 2 more books under my belt that don't depreciate the way like a tractor does.
Sure.
Because if you buy a tractor, like, it's not going to last forever, but that cover art could. Okay. Yeah. So if you think, but then I also have ongoing expenses. Like I have some minor advertising expenses, like upkeep on the website. Like I just have to re-register the domain name, right? There's all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So based on that, if you take that out of, if you don't count the capital costs, I probably make a few grand a year.
Oh, really?
Like less, like maybe I'd have to really like look line by line. If you don't account the cover art and the editing and the narration, because I'm getting 2 more audiobooks done this fall.
Oh,
if
nice.
you don't count that, I'm making I'm making some money, right? Like enough to go out for a few meals. On an hourly rate, it would probably be like $2-3 an hour, maybe $5 an hour, right? Right. Okay. I have to feel like I'm probably spending close to 1,000 hours a year on the writing. But maybe it's 500, and then I might be getting in $5,000. I might be making $10 at best, right? But but if you count the capital costs, because I still have to pay for those covers, I have to pay for the editor, I have to pay for the narrator. Now I'm losing a significant amount of money, probably five figures a year.
Yeah.
And do I hope that'll come back to me someday? Like, because I mean, I paid for Wistful Ascending in 2021, right? So like every time I sell that now, you can kind of think of it as not free money, but I'm not paying for that cover anymore. And then so if I make it big like next year, and all of a sudden I have like 5,000 people buy the whole series, they're buying 10 books. Yeah. And that's the dream, because then it's going to pay for itself, or pay for itself and my Porsche. I don't know. But right now, I came to the real after sometime I think in 23 at Dragon Con, I realized I was really enjoying this whole process and meeting the people and the socializing and everything. And I was like, I have to to be sane. I have to think of this as my hobby.
Right.
I know a guy with a boat. I know a guy who's got a motorcycle and he rides his like not to get to work, but it's his weekend trip thing. And I'm like,
Sure.
this boats are expensive, right? You got to
Oh yeah.
articles off and you got to dock them. I'm like, this is my boat or my cocaine habit or whatever however you want to think of it.
Right.
So that's how I think of it, right? This is my hobby. It brings me peace of mind. It brings me joy, and it's costing me money, but
yeah. So that was, that's obviously the next question. Well, actually, you answered the next 3 questions all in one fit. So that's very efficient. So yeah, I was going to ask, you making any dividend profit? Depends how you look at it. Okay.
No.
Yeah. And then what motivates you to keep going on? It's just this is your joy. This is your hobby.
It's funny. I was talking to Adrian Gibson who wrote Emotional Mushroom Blues about the victories, because there are so many. If you learn to appreciate them, there you can have so many wins. Like I had someone, people I don't know, like just up front, people I don't know have read and enjoyed my books. Like not it's if I pass the friends and family threshold, which is not a real term, but everyone knows what I mean by that, right? It's not just my cousins and my mom who have read the book. And then I get these moments of communication, and I often will refer. One of my favorite examples is your review of Wistful Ascending, right? You got what I was trying to do with that book, right? And you put it on paper, and I was like, this guy who I would never have otherwise met or interacted with, like in any way, got what I was trying to convey, this like distillation of like all the things that I loved, that I poured into that book, and you got it, all of it, right? And I was like, okay, like this is who gets that, who gets those kinds of moments in life, right? Like people do, but those are treasures. So, and then I can go to a place like and it was very exciting to go to like cons and have people recognize me and kind of know who I get off on that. I like to be a big shot, right? Like it was cool, people like, oh, I know you. I've seen your book on Twitter or whatever. I'm like, yes, that's me. So I'm going to be in Worldcon. I'm still scheduled. I don't know if they're going to take me off when they realize their mistake. I'm going to be on a panel with Bookborn and John Minton talking about long form YouTube content. I'm like, who the hell? I'm going to be that schmuck sitting next to Bookborn. That's going to be my nickname for the rest of my life, I think. That schmuck who sat next to Bookborn at that panel. But like, that's like super cool. Like I'm going to be on, that's a big deal for me.
Sure.
It's a big deal for Bookborn or for John, but this stuff is there's a lot of stuff that keeps me going, the communication, and then really the feeling of legacy, right? Like if I can do what I want to do with this series, that means a lot to me. It means a lot of, it's an action story that I hope is entertaining, but it's also, to me, it's a distillation of like my ethical philosophy, of my political philosophy, of my, so many of my, values are packed in there. And to get all this down in a way that people can consume, like that's priceless. Because I used to be a philosophy major. I wanted to write books on this kind of stuff, but like no one reads those. But this gives me a chance to sneak in the politics and the ethics.
Yes.
In this, I hope, somewhat subtle way, especially since I rewrote book 2. It's a little more subtle.
Okay.
I took the overt politics out of Return of the Griffin because I realized it was a distraction.
Sure.
It was a distraction. It was one of my favorite jokes in the whole series was in that book, which is the Make Earth Great Again hats, which I still think was fantastic.
Yeah.
I took it out. I took it all. I took out anything that was too real world because it was distracting people. not just people on the other side of the aisle, but people on either side of the aisle felt it was distracting.
Yeah.
Because they come to my books for escape. And if you come to someone's books for escape, they can sneak in like you can sneak in politics. You can sneak and say like, be kind and accepting of others, but you can't sneak in like anything too specific about a party, because that just brings you thundering back to the real world. And people want that at an escapist work. And I respected that. People told me that, I didn't listen. And then finally I'm like, they're right. So I changed it. I took out everything explicit and I added a phenomenal reference to The Last Dragon, which is one of my favorite movies. Have you seen that movie?
Does it hold up? I haven't seen it since, I don't know. Probably Reagan was still president last time I saw it.
Okay. But I basically, I don't know if you remember, the pizza shop was called Daddy Green's Pizza, and they had a little jingle like, just get to your pizza to Daddy Green's Pizza. And I had Rohan and crew go to Daddy Green's Pizza after it had been like ransacked. And it was all very subtle, but anyone who had seen the movie would be like, oh, wait. That made me very happy. That was a good idea, which I didn't have when I first wrote the book. But I took out the neo-Nazis and I just made them generic villains, like crime bosses, which was fine for the story, but people were just people don't want to read about neo-Nazis in the U.S. Like it was too close to home. And I was like, you know what? I heard enough people complain, and finally I'm like, you know what? I see their point. I took it out. Yeah. So, but generally speaking, I see the books as highly political because they're all about how you view the world, which is directly political, So to me, that's really, to me, it's important. You want to write. I want to write a fun action story, but I don't want it to be just a fun action story.
Sure.
So that's why I keep going.
Yeah, there you go. Real quick, I would add that a friend of mine who has read more of your stuff than I have, that was his major takeaway from book 2. Like, he really got turned off with that. I don't know if he's read the new version. Maybe he's not aware. I don't know. I need to remember.
I don't know.
Actually, if he's watching this, Tony, go get book 2 again.
If he emails me or something, I'm happy to send him the updated version. It's although I think if you go to your Kindle and remove the download and re-download it, you should get the new one. You'll know from the cover. You'll know from the cover. If the cover has the new typography, it's the new version. And if it doesn't, but it should give you the new one.
Okay.
Amazon is weird about stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that was a mistake. What did I know?
Yeah. Learn. So now, that keeps you going. What about your wife and kids? Whatever you think of this little hobby is your enjoyment, your little victories, your emotional payoff. Is that enough, your legacy rather? Is that enough for them, or do they want to see a bit more out of this, or do they even care, man?
My kids don't care.
Do they read your stuff?
No, my kids have not. They don't care. It's just whatever I do. But if I were playing video games instead, that would be the same to them.
Right.
And they'd be fine with that, right? So they don't care. My wife actually read 5 of the Hybrid Helix books this year. She had a really long commute. She read the first one on audio, and then she read the others. But we have a gentleman's agreement that she doesn't talk to me about the books, because I have a feeling it wouldn't lead any. There's nowhere good it can go. It's just nowhere good.
Even if she's a huge fan, she's not enough of one. No.
Yeah.
That's the ego.
I think she realizes that she's just in a position where there's nothing to be done. Like, I was committed, and it was clearly something that meant enough to me that I wasn't going to quit. So she's pretty supportive, and I didn't give her a ton of choice. I kind of feel bad about it in a way, because I wasn't writing when we got married. That wasn't like the plan that I would have this like side gig. But she's been very understanding, and we got married older. Like, we were never we weren't married at the stage of life where you think you're going to be involved in every minute of the other person's life, because we have different kids, we have some extent our own lives. She's really into she really enjoys and is motivated by her job. She's a pediatrician. She's an academic pediatrician, so that means a lot to her. And I think she also, I think, understands that my day job is not emotionally satisfying. It's a great job. My working conditions are good, but I work in finance. Like, it doesn't. I don't feel like I'm doing anything important for the world. You know, I'm getting paid and it's fine. Like, my boss is great, my coworkers are nice, but I'm not doing anything that I feel is like a sort of morally worthwhile. But she gets that that's what the writing has become. But she's funny. She'll take, I have little, the business cards with like the cover on it, and if she goes places without me, she'll take the cards and she'll talk up like, the waiter at the restaurant. Oh, take a card. Like, oh, you're a writer. Oh, my husband's a writer. So she's my part-time promotions person, which is very funny. But I got points with her family in a big way, and this was hilarious. So my wife's family is all from Bangladesh. She was born here. She actually spent a few years there, so very connected to the country. And I had at some point mentioned something about Bangladesh in my books. I don't know. I don't even know. I think in Return of the Griffin. And I'd mentioned it somewhere that my wife's from Bangladesh. And there's this guy named Shakib Chowdhury who has a book channel in Bangla, right? It's not in English, right? And he lives there. And he has a book channel where they review books, and he somehow picked up my books and read them. And I was like, and then he heard me speaking about this. He's like, I can DM this guy. So he DM'd me, and we became friends, and he interviewed me on his channel. And then, I don't know, I think I must have told them, but somehow they got a hold of the interview. And it's like, I've never had more points with her family than I did after the Bengali influencer interviewed me on YouTube, a guy who has a Bangla channel, and they're like, oh my God. And like, all of a sudden, I'm like the worthwhile son-in-law for the first time. So
Okay.
it's maybe not for the first time. I'm kidding about that. They're very sweet, but they appreciate it now.
Oh, good. All right. There you go.
That's another funny win that I was never looking for that. Never would have occurred to me to look for that. Like I would never thought of that. But anyway, long answer to a short question.
All right. Anything else on this topic that you want to throw out there in the world?
I think yes. I think this is my business advice to other writers is you have to recognize there's a continuum between writing for business reasons or money and writing as a hobby or as a passion. I think of hobby and passion as the same thing.
Sure.
And that will influence nearly everything you do. And it's a continuum. It's not one or the other. Right. And what you need to do is you need to figure out for yourself where you are in that. Because if you're really trying to make enough money that you can quit your job and pay your rent and feed your kids, and if that's your real goal, you need to do this differently than someone who's like, I'd love to make some money, but really it's my hobby. And there's nothing wrong with either fork of that choice, but you need to know where you are. And then when you talk to other writers, you need to intuit where they are, because people, like if someone says, oh, I use AI to generate these books and I put them on Amazon and I use, I know what you're doing, right? And like, I'm not going to stop you. I'm not angry necessarily, but like, we have nothing to talk about. You want to talk to me about craft? You want to, I'll tell you how I use ChatGPT to like write these 7 chapters faster. I don't need to hear that. No. You're not my people. Nothing wrong with you. Or maybe there is something wrong. That's a different story. But we have nothing to discuss. I don't want to sit with you at DragonCon. You're a different beast. That's the extreme end of that continuum. Just out for money, right? And most people who are making a lot of money are not at that extreme end. But you need to sort of understand that continuum and where you lie and use that, because there are people who like to write and they're writers and all they want to talk is marketing. And I'm like, I get it. There's nothing wrong with talking about marketing all the time, but like, Can we talk about something else? We talk about what the books mean a little bit, and you just need to figure that out and understand that you are making, if you do this for love, you're making a sacrifice, because for that time you're not going to make as much money, almost, unless you're really lucky. If you're really lucky, you can certainly write what you love, and what you love might be what everyone else loves, and then you're rich and happy. Sure. That's fantastic. That can happen,
right?
But if you really Yeah. But if you really want to cash out, you probably want to make different choices. or be one of the people who just happens to love the stuff that people pay a lot for, which I think I suspect that many or most romance writers really do like writing romance. They're not just doing it for the money. I don't know that many, but they can't all just be looking to cash out. But a lot of people are. I know I was on a writing server with someone who was like she would scan the releases in her genre to look for the tropes that were in like the top 5 sellers and use those tropes to plot her next book. And I was like, now I know where on the continuum you lie.
Yeah.
Right? Because that would never occur to me in a million years.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm going to write what I want to write. What strikes a chord for me. And that's the other end. Right. So anyway, and again, she's not a bad person.
No.
It's just, to her, this was like the most intuitive thing in the world. Why would you do anything else? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know how to have that conversation, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. Figure out where you are, and that can change over time. And by the way, you can start out as a hobbyist, make a little money. Like, you know what? I can just tweak my writing a little bit, and I can write stuff that'll really sell. Fantastic, good for you. Or the other way, I think people are we see this in all the arts, right? People are super successful, then they go and do the arty film they wanted to do, like art, like actors or directors, right? It's the opposite. You start with what sells, and that gives you the freedom to do what's in your heart. So you can go out, you can move, you can shift, but you need to know where you are.
Okay.
So that's the important take home from me.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Steve, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yours, those of you watching, The Shield of Mothership is out today. The rest of the Hybrid Helix is already out, or at least so far. There's more to come. Go get it. You'll be happy that you did. Also, Partial Function is absolutely worth your time. It's a standalone.
Thank you.
So I wouldn't mind something else, but it's a standalone. You'll love it. And also check out Grim Dwarf Volume 1, Cursed. It's a whole lot of fun. And just find Mr. Berne on the socials, which are right below here. I'm not even pointing on camera. There we go. Right below, right there. You can find him. And thanks for your time, man. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, HC. I really appreciate it.
Okay.